Hello. So, I'm going to talk about anxiety again because I'm really riled up and wanting to rant about it because it's just driving me so fucking nuts when I see people. I'm going to say complaining because it can be perceived as that, and I'm not trying to be judgy or whatever. It's just when it can be a little bit much, it's like, holy fucking shit. Mainly, I say that it's because when someone is trying to talk about a certain, um, or sorry, multiple situations about anxiety, and it's like, oh my god, you can easily fucking control your emotions. And that's a part of the problem because if you aren't knowing how to control your emotions, then those will always be very exaggerated or very what's the word, like, immense, I guess is the right word. um so hold on, I need to close the window. um okay, so I watched a video about this woman. She was feeling anxiety about people, like intruding, like going into her house, right? So she was talking about so many scenarios about things like that because of her house. She was not feeling safe in her house for multiple reasons. And I was like, oh my god, I can't listen to this because when someone is constantly creating illogical scenarios in their mind, and they're like, okay, I need to figure out how I can do, like, how I can deal with this. I need to figure out how I can, like, avoid the amount of stress or the amount of crying or whatever it is, right? But it would be so constant and consistent. And okay, I totally get it. The amount of worry, I get it. But when someone like that, okay, is very conscious and obviously aware of their anxiety and the amount of emotion it is, right? Because it's constant, it's every day, and they're like, okay, I should really calm down, I should really be happy, I should really do something that will take my mind off of it, right, to relax. Uh, they're they're aware of it, is what I'm saying. And um, Jesus, I fucking lost a thought. So I was like, okay, so they're aware of it, that's good. But if you're constantly trying to create illogical thinking and situations that most likely won't ever happen, okay, you're putting energy into those situations, right? And you're creating more and more stress upon that, because obviously that is creating like so many um, stress related, uh, you know, like extra shit going on, right? Like either very exhausted, headaches, etc., right? And creating so many problems of not being able to function properly, I guess you could say. And so I was saying in my head, like to myself, right? Because I get so riled up and I'm like, okay, you could totally not create those situations for yourself. You can totally lessen the amount of anxiety. You can totally diminish the amount of anxiety, because if you're speaking with yourself and you're saying, what is logical and what is not? How do I solve this fear from constantly being so immense? And how do I relax myself so I can put myself in a better state of mind, right? So I was like, okay, obviously this person, not trying to judge or anything, but what it seems like is they were trying to deal with the cognitive part, um, and thinking about the thought processing and, like, things that can help them rather than actually dealing with the problem itself. So the problem itself would be, as an example, um, how, like, what is causing that anxiety, right? What are all the reasons? Why is this making it really hard for me to feel safe at home? And that could be any kind of reason. It could be the fact that they aren't, you know, uh, thinking logically to lessen, right? They're not refreshing their mind that there are so many reasons as to why you could be safe. Okay, because that person, like I was trying to say earlier, was aware of logic and illogical, but only focusing on the illogical because they were so wound up in being uh, stressed and having that fear. But like most people would realize, if you're going outside, you get into your car or you're just standing out there in front of your house or whatever, you could totally die in that instant. Like somebody could shoot at you, or you could fall and like, I guess, like trip over something and then like break your neck or some shit like that. Like, I don't fucking know, anything dramatic, right? Um, or you could get into your car and get into a car accident and die. Okay, but no one is actually thinking those things right as you're getting into the car, right? That's happening when you're at home and you have time to fucking stress and you prevent yourself from going out of the house. But you have every reason to just be like, okay, that is not logical. I need to stop myself from thinking that, and put your mind in a state of, I shouldn't ever think that, because it's preventing me from doing things in my daily life. It's preventing me from living properly. Okay, because when you're fucking stressed, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, this is something that I should do every day. I should really be stressed today. I should really focus in on everything that I'm afraid of, right? Like, we know that that is not healthy. And I get that sometimes it's hard for people to get out of that state of mind in that moment. I get it. But before you even have it, or when you feel that it's coming on, you could totally, totally lessen it. And it's the fact that you're not wanting to face that fear. You're not wanting to deal with it. Okay, so the this woman, she was like, okay, I should get a gun to try and solve or trying to diminish that fear from happening, and so I can feel a little bit more safer at home. And it's like, to me, I'm like, okay, that is not going to solve your problem, because apart from just that, okay, just as maybe a problem solver, apart from just that, a gun as an example, right? When a situation fucking arises, you're not going to be like, oh, I should instantly get my gun right now. Like, you're going to think, oh, maybe I shouldn't because this person might get angry. They might feel, threatened or whatever the fuck, right? And then something might escalate into something else happening. Like, you don't know if they'll have a knife. You don't know if they have any fighting experience that could potentially hurt you in any way right there, right? In that instance, in that moment. And so I'm like, okay, why isn't this woman trying to learn physical protection for herself, right? Because if you're constantly going to feel fear about not being safe in your fucking home, okay? Because it just seems crazy to me that you're just going to let yourself um, constantly feel that way, but not trying to either meditate, trying to remind yourself that it's just not likely. Um, because, kidnapping could be even a most likelier thing. And again, why would you fucking why would you want to deliberately think about that? The point of daily life is to lessen the amount of stress, to lessen the amount of sadness, to lessen the amount of negative emotions, so that you can remind yourself that we need to live day to day. Yes, there's struggle. Obviously, some things you can't fucking control. That's inevitable. But the point of living day to day is to remind yourself that you need to keep going, you need to keep pushing forward, you need to keep staying happy in that state of mind so that you aren't succumbing to that negative emotion, whatever it may be, specifically um, a group of emotions that are taking over and delaying you from staying positive. Because once you're reminding yourself and speaking to yourself about what is actually logical and what is actually worth stressing over, that is going to drastically help you with staying fucking anxious all the time. Because I get it, there can be larger amounts. There could be different kinds of anxiety. There could be the chronic kind where you're not able to leave your house. And again, that could also just be depression too, associated with the anxiety as well. But nonetheless, okay, sometimes you just have to get in the routine of refreshing your mind about that, refreshing your state of mind so that you aren't going to constantly be like, oh yeah, I should really go out to get groceries. Oh, but I can't because of whatever, whatever, whatever. Like, that's not logical because someday you're going to end up wanting to get hungry, wanting to fucking eat something, and you're going to be hungry for X amount of days. So how is that logical to just rely on somebody else to get your food? Okay, what if you're the only one home? What are you going to do then? And there's no food for you to eat. Or, you can't sit on the fucking toilet because you think snakes are going to be in the fucking water. Like, that doesn't make any sense. As an example to like worry about. And I'm like, okay, you could totally refresh your mind so that you aren't trying to find any reason to um, keep staying. What is the word? Like, stunned? I don't know if that's the right word. Like, um, not aware of your surroundings is what I mean. Like, you're not trying to stay productive, and usually whenever somebody's having a really, really hard time, it's because you're not physically doing anything. Whenever you feel gratified of something, it's because you're physically doing something in order to get that kind of emotion response. So yeah, you could cry, you could be stressed all the time, but that doesn't mean that it's going to solve anything, because if you're constantly looking for something to be stressed about, that is going against what you're trying to achieve and accomplish. So if you aren't trying to look for solutions, like actual solutions of diminishing your anxiety and your stress and your depression, then you're going to constantly be in that bubble, in that amount of fucking shit that you created for yourself, right? Like, as an example of depression, when I was younger and I always had trouble trying to get out of bed in high school, and just, elementary, all that kind of stuff, because I have had it for so many years. It's just as an example. I knew that I had to get out of bed because otherwise I would get in trouble from my mom, or I would do terribly in school if I just missed so many days, and I knew that it wasn't right to do that. So I was like, okay, I need to get out of bed because I need to be productive. I need to actually do something even if I'm not happy about it, because at least you know that you got out of bed and that you lived. That is the whole point of just everyday struggle, that you're here and you need to be grateful. When you remind yourself of things to be grateful for, that is already positive. That is already something that you're creating at least something of. I always had a motto for myself: if the first step to success is to try, because that's the only way you can actually get anywhere, is if you're trying to make a difference, if you're trying to feel better, if you're trying to have progress, if you're trying to lessen any fucking emotion, right? Because if you're putting energy into that negative crap, you're going to constantly create that for yourself. That is why, if you're trying to lessen that negative emotion and you're trying to feel a little bit better, then that means you're going to create more of that because you're consciously aware and you're consciously thinking of it. You're trying to feel less stressed. And that is just another thing. Like, if you know that you have so many reasons to feel safe in your home, then just relax. Stop fighting against yourself. And some people just don't know how to do that. And it's like, what the fuck is your problem? Because it's almost like when you have a headache in your head and you're only focusing on that, or you have a pain in your stomach or whatever it is, and you're only focusing on that, that means that's all you're going to be worried about. You're just going to feel more ache and ache, rather than, oh, maybe I should listen to music. Maybe I should put some incense on, or a fucking candle, and just distract my senses, right? Focus on a scent. Focus on fucking fan blowing on you. I don't know. Drink something like water, or, like juices that have vitamins in, or whatever the fuck. Like, eat. That can also help you. And, don't rely on medication to fucking feel better, because it's not going to do anything. It's just going to have your body either eventually become immune to it, and it won't react anymore, or it's not going to do anything and it'll just make your emotions more heightened, like more susceptible to the negative, like more stress or whatever it is, right? And, even with headaches, for me, I don't ever take medication for it because I don't want to ever rely on the medication for any of it. I just don't like it. Anyway, I was just really stressed that, like, when you are consciously aware of something that is making you stressed, hello, do something about it. Physically do something, rather than just reading one or a couple things that are like, oh yeah, this should probably help. No, do something that you know will actually help. Do something that you know that you are actually 100% oh, I know this is going to help me feel a little bit better, because when you're aware of the amount of energy that you're putting into something, that will do an exponential amount of help to yourself, because you're conscious and you're only focusing on that. Yeah, that kind of feels, stupid to say about the energy and that kind of stuff, and, keeping your mind distracted and, stimulation and that kind of stuff. But actually, it does help, because that's what our brains are constantly wanting, is stimulation and something that is triggering something, a reaction out of something. So if you're constantly wanting to do something and figure things out, instead of just constantly being stressed, like, and then you'll become more of that if you aren't doing that. Because it's the same thing with crying. If you're constantly fucking crying and just wasting that energy of doing something, you're gonna want to deliberately just shrivel up in a fucking ball. But of course, that you're like, okay, I can't fucking do that all the time. I can't just sit in my room in the corner doing goddamn fucking nothing and just keep crying and crying and crying. That's not going to solve anything. You're not going to feel better. And yeah, just shit. That's all that I wanted to say, because holy fuck. It's crazy seeing stuff that people are talking about and they aren't wanting to actually do anything about it. Like, I get it. You can do a little bit of stuff, but if you aren't doing so many things to keep your mind focused on feeling better, then you're going to keep succumbing to all of that anxiety, or stress or depression, whatever it is. And I don't know. When people aren't trying to be aware or um, become more, I guess, educated, but it's more about just like being like acknowledging either wrong or acknowledging to do things differently. That's just a way of life. Do things differently, you learn more. And it's the same thing with self-control. Like, if you aren't being aware of your emotions and the amount of emotion that you are using, you need to learn self-control so that you physically are trying to lessen those emotions. You're physically trying to do X. You're physically trying to do whatever it is. And you're lessening those things from controlling you. That is the whole point about, staying positive, is that you're physically knowing that you're in that state of control. And if you know and you're conscious and you're aware of it, that will be more positive, because once you would not acknowledge the things that you aren't in control of, hello, don't put energy into it. That's easy. It's that easy. When you remind yourself, when you are relaxed, when you're thinking logically and productively, you got your answers. That's all you have to do, is just act on them. Anyway, Jesus, I need to take a breath.